Andrew Mitchell. Now, obviously, we're not going to discuss the case of PC Wallace as he's been charged, but what about the rest of the affair, the events that took place on Downing Street that day? The CPS said there was no way of deciding between the two different accounts.
Yeah, in effect, they said insufficient evidence. Now, we've got to be careful about prejudging any of these cases now, because both the criminal cases you described and also the other cases of gross misconduct is very serious. It means people losing their jobs if they're found guilty of it. But there's no doubt in my mind that Mr. Mitchell suffered a gross injustice, that a number of people who haven't been charged that the CPS refer to, civilians who can't be charged because they're not breaching a misconduct in public office line, have told lies about this episode. So he's suffered a gross injustice. To some extent, he feels vindicated today that these charges have been brought. But frankly, at the end of the day, we're still pretty dissatisfied with the Metropolitan Police investigating themselves not very effectively.
Well, as you said, the Director of Public Prosecution said there's insufficient evidence that the officer at the gate to Downing Street lied. And we should be clear that the officer who had the row with Andrew Mitchell isn't one of the police officers to face disciplinary charges, and as well as not being charged with any criminal offence.
That's right. There are some sort of extraordinary things in the CPS statement about two other bits of video footage. I haven't seen them, but our lawyer has seen them, and he says it does not alter the case at all. It doesn't change the case at all. Indeed, if anything, it sort of supports our case.
Well, you see, the CPS would disagree with that.
Well,
the statement says...
That is why this afternoon we're going to go through the video evidence again in public, and we can debate the matter then.
Well, let me just explain to our listeners what the CPS statement says. It says that the CCTV footage that's been aired publicly, this is on Channel 4, was edited and did not show the full picture.
Yeah, well, I'm going to show the whole footage, beginning to end, this afternoon, so you can see how much time is available for PC, Toby Rawlins and Andrew Mitchell to say what they are asserted to have said, and it just isn't enough. But we'll go through it and we'll show that. Quite astonishing, that bit. But the whole problem here...
Well, just returning on the footage, the CPS says that with the extra footage, it shows there are a small number of members of the public present immediately in front of the gate at the relevant time, which would be consistent with the officer's account that several members of the public were present.
Forgive me, Martha, but this needs to be done with the video in front of you, and I will show people this afternoon why we disagree with that. But the simple truth is that there's been a year-long investigation. The only person who's actually been charged partly as a result of Channel 4's investigations, not the Met Police's. There have been vast numbers of policemen, 30 policemen, 750 interviews, hundreds of thousands of pounds, to arrive at this inconclusive outcome, which is pretty unsatisfactory. I mean, I do think, Andrew should feel vindicated in one respect, in that it's clear that a lot of things have gone on which justify charges. But the simple truth is that this has been an unsatisfactory investigation.
Although the CPS also says that Mr. Mitchell's account has varied since the incident.
Well, this is fascinating, because this is the first I've heard of this, and I'm not aware of Andrew being challenged on any part of his account. So I'd be interested to know where the variation has occurred. But that we'll have to come back to when we know what they're actually saying, rather than... and we weren't warned of this at all. We weren't told that at all. So, and we weren't warned of any of this. So the simple truth is, Andrew has suffered a gross misjustice. He has been misrepresented. His job's been brought to an end. He's been the subject of almost a lynch mob mentality on the part of a media campaign by the Police Federation, and at the end of this, 5 policemen are facing charges of one sort or another.
Although the police officer on the gate could argue that he's faced similar problems, couldn't he?
Others have told lies that can't be charged because they're civilians. Now, your listeners will draw their own conclusions as to what the outcome of that is. And
well, telling lies, I think we should perhaps it's a phrase that perhaps we shouldn't use about people who aren't here to defend themselves.
Well,
one final point I want...
Read the CPS document. It'll tell you.
One final point I want to make to you is it says the claims made in the Sunday Times about a whistleblower were first made to the police by David Davis MP and Mr. Mitchell. They've declined to assist the police by naming them. Why aren't you helping the police?
Well, because the condition on which the whistleblower told us the information was that they weren't named. And I checked very carefully in order to see whether or not they were willing to be named, willing to be a witness. They weren't. So we told them we felt duty bound to tell the police what we had been told. It's a bigger conspiracy than the one the CPS has focused on here. But we can't. We know it couldn't be proved, and so we didn't press the point. Okay. But we had no choice. Whistleblowers in the Metropolitan Police do not have a very happy life thereafter, and I can understand only too well why a whistleblower in public service does not want to be named.
Okay, David Davis, thank you for joining us. The phrase